Please welcome to the stage Mr. Adam Pennington.
So, welcome back. So now we have a couple of shorter talks for you, to round out our day. Our first talk is another attack update. Our cyber threat intelligence lead, Matt Malone, is going to be talking about campaigns.
Thank you, sir. And I know that applause was more for the fact that it's a short talk compared to everything else going on, but I appreciate you taking time out of your day this afternoon. I just want to elaborate a little bit more on the structure of campaigns as we are attempting to put it into action, not for April, not for the attack version 11 coming out next month, but this is going to be an October focus. I'm not lazing anyone. There we go. Several people talked, as they were introducing themselves, talked about being gamers. I'm a retired gamer. I didn't get to the punchline yet. I was retired by my very malicious teenage sons, who, regardless of the game, no matter what the platform, coming after me and taking me out first and then repeatedly was always more fun than the game itself. I've been with MITRE for about a year and a half. I get the privilege of working with the CTI team, 4 outstanding analysts. They work with your contributions. They work with open source reporting to help create new group and software updates, create new group and software entries, as well as update additional information that's already within the attack framework. Over the last couple of releases, 8, 9, and 10, they've added almost 30 new groups and over 140 new software entries. They've also done some deeper dives into some of our APT actors, trying to update, refine, and in some cases detangle how attack had previously identified Iranian, North Korean, and other actors. And now, because they like a challenge, we're going to add campaigns to their list as well. As Adam mentioned this morning, and as in the roadmap, we're starting with a very general definition of what a campaign is. It's a grouping of intrusion activity, which may or may not be attributed. It's ideally bound within a time frame, but also specifically going after common targets and objectives. This is very much a work in progress. That's why I focus on the fact that it's a concept right now. So everything I tell you today will be absolutely true, except the parts that are going to change between now and October, based on the reality of taking the concept and applying real-world CTI to it, but also primarily based on your feedback, your recommendations, and your guidance. The idea of having campaigns in attack is not a new one. The attack team has talked about it for quite some time. And truth be told, there are campaigns and operations already in attack. They're kind of squirreled in with some of our group updates, our group entries. There's only a few, maybe about a dozen. But really the turning point, the tipping point for moving forward with the campaigns was the SolarWinds intrusion, as Adam mentioned earlier. From an attack perspective, we were trying to focus on as much of the CTI reporting that was coming out, collecting it, analyzing it, and then trying to map the techniques related to it. We created a new group entry because that was our best avenue at the time. We created UNC 2452 and started mapping attack techniques. When we did the out-of-cycle update for this, we had 50 techniques total. A majority of those were techniques that were already in attack. However, there was some new behavior that had not been previously captured in attack. So Jamie and other parts of the attack team worked with the community to help identify those, scope them, and then we mapped UNC 2452 to that as well. Typical with a group entry, we had a software section, a combination of tools that were already in attack, and some unique malware that had not been seen before, including some that had been custom made for this campaign. And of course, down the bottom, we had all of our references, our compilation of reporting. So as researchers wanted to understand more about a specific technique or how software fit in, they could go to that original reporting and go back and get the details. Last April, coming up on a year ago now, the US and the UK government issued statements regarding SolarWinds. They attributed with high confidence the campaign to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR. And in their statement, they talked about how the group is also known as APT-29, Cozy Bear, and the Dukes. From an attack perspective, we already had a group entry that covered that. So we ended up taking UNC 2452 and merging it into our G0016 or APT29 entry. All the information carried over. None of it was lost. But what we discovered was the details of solar winds quickly became lost in what was one of our largest entries, group entries in ATT&CK. The 50 techniques were still there, but now they were part of a broader category of list of 70 that went back several years. Same with the malware. Now we had 23 software entries in total. At the same time, additional reporting was still coming out about not only solar winds in and of itself, but also what the actors were doing outside and after solar winds. And that was all being added to the G0016 APT29 entry. From an internal MITRE perspective, as we were doing work on solar winds, I often found myself going back to UNC 2452 as the baseline and then kind of populating additional techniques and software as it came out from there. We're hoping that campaigns has a widespread benefits beyond a high impact, high visibility campaigns such as solar winds. We're hoping that as we can populate campaigns out over time, it provides another perspective, another way of telling the story of what's going on in the cyber field. We're hoping it can show the evolution of malicious cyber operations, particularly as we can tie them to specific groups. We can show how groups have evolved not only over time, but potentially due to new technologies coming on board, identification of new vulnerabilities, exploits, sometimes shifting based on their targeting or what their objectives are, but probably in many cases to what you all are doing here in terms of hardening the networks and making their job harder. To a certain extent, I'm curious that as we can kind of build this out, will there be sections where we can focus on unchanged behavior? If we can get a better sense of what are those key techniques that are always part of their toolkit, they'll make minor modifications to get around detections and alerts, but it's always something they go to time and time again, and maybe that'll help with prioritization when you're looking at techniques overall. From an attack perspective, it gives us a lot more flexibility than we currently have. As Adam mentioned this morning, we currently don't create group entries without a group name. We also don't take, I mentioned how we would previously take campaigns and kind of cram them into a group. We don't do that with unnamed campaigns. We want to create a lot of flexibility with this new structure. So we can take unnamed actors, we can take low confidence actors as well, and unnamed operations and be able to fit it into this format. One of the biggest benefits we hope to get from this is addressing ransomware. The last talk was excellent in terms of just framing the ransomware as a service issue. From an attack perspective, we've had a challenge of keeping up on that. Yes, we can create malware software entries for the ransomware in and of itself, but at that point, it's already in the network, it's already deployed, it's too late for the defender to actually take action. There's a large body of open, unclassified CTI reporting about all the activities, all the TTPs leading up to the ransomware infection, but quite often it was unidentified actors, unidentified groups, or based on ransomware as a service, you could have multiple clusters of activity all working to the same end goal of deploying the same type of ransomware. And we just didn't have a good methodology for capturing that. From a campaign perspective, we're hoping to shift the focus away from the actor in and of itself and the target of and make it the target of the campaign instead, so we could focus on a Ryuk ransomware campaign against the healthcare sector in this time frame and identify not only named actors, but unidentified and unknown actors as well. So in terms of components, what the actual page will look like, if you're familiar with ATT&CK, and hopefully you are if you're here, it's going to look very much like a group and software page with some noticeable differences. Every page will have a campaign ID number, so Charlie 1234. It may or may not have a name. That'll be, as I said before, a split in practice from what we've done previously. If we can link it to a group, we will, but that's not necessary. It's not required. Again, we could have campaigns that just focus on unknown actors or unidentified actors. We'll have that description of what the campaign is about, the sectors, the targeting, countries involved. We try to capture that in group descriptions as much as possible. One of the challenges is with data aggregation over time, we're forced to generalize. So instead of talking about specific countries, we talk about regions. Instead of specific organizations, we talk about general sectors. Under campaigns, we're hoping to keep that as much detail as we can and add additional points. If new techniques were developed based on this campaign, if there were new TTPs identified, maybe it was the first time a family of malware or software was identified and used, we want to make those notes as to why this campaign stands out. The group and software pages will not change, with the exception that when we can tie it back to a campaign, there'll be a campaign section with the campaign ID code, so you can click and you can move, hopefully, seamlessly between a campaign page, any groups, and any related software. So again, October timeframe, not April. Don't go looking for it in version 11. Right now, the team is focused on taking those campaigns that are currently in attack. They're going back to the original reporting, seeing if any new information has come to light, help us better understand not only the campaign, but if there's been some attribution made subsequently. They're also going to remap the reports because attack has grown and changed since these first came out. And then as we've moved forward, we'll keep creating new campaigns. As the team has been working for group and software updates for version 11, on the side, they've been keeping mappings for campaigns. We have a template, or they've been using Excel, Word, so they've been identifying and potentially nominating potential campaign entries. Our goal over time is to narrow the gap between what we have in groups, where we can take older campaigns and map those while still being forward-leaning and capturing new activity. And that's where you all come in. We're really looking forward to engagement and feedback, recommendations, how to move forward quickly with this. I don't have a set number of campaigns that I plan to publish come October. I'd rather have a strong foundation and then be able to build out from there. We owe you a blog post later in the year, where as this develops, we'll provide a little more guidance and information. And as always, we look forward to your contributions.
The words escape me on how excited for this I am. I wish I could really capture.
Still my heart.
Yeah. Wow. Just there's a Taylor Swift meme there. I don't want to monopolize because I could talk about this one all day. I wanted to see if anyone from the audience wanted to ask anything of Matt. Yes.
So I saw a lot of these campaigns. Will they have some campaign activity dedicated to the ICS space?
Question for the audience is, will the campaigns extend to across multiple domains and matrices of attack, particularly not just enterprise, but ICS?
Ideally, yes. Ideally, we'd like to eventually get to a point where we can tie the different frameworks together. So if something starts from a mobile perspective, but moves to enterprise, if it starts with enterprise, but lo and behold, that ICS network isn't as air-gapped as the people thought it was, and they have that type of movement. So yeah, it is a whole of attack development.
So we put this in slides. We haven't put it on a t-shirt yet. Haven't put that on a t-shirt yet, but we have this internal saying called one attack. And I think it's something we're really pushing towards. So, the equity and kind of the balance between the different domains. I think we have time for one more question. Oh, in the back. So the question is, how fast will attack begin to, kind of consume all of this and actually integrate it?
Right now, we release attack twice a year, and that's going to be the current pace until Adam tells us differently. So I guess from the perspective of the CTI team, we are constantly adding and updating to attack. It's just that the release comes out every 6 months.
I think we have time for one more question, and I'm going to be very selfish to take this. In the spirit of this is our framework, this is our community, you mentioned contributions.
Yes.
What can we do for you?
Well, I think that's where the conversation has to start. We started with a very general definition of how we're approaching campaigns. If people have a better way of scoping, shaping, elements that really should be in there, if there are going to be particular challenges where there's going to be a gap in reporting of one part or another, how do we address those?
Lovely. Thank you.